Hello, world. Hello, Chris and Asaf.
Hey, I guess you're
Uh,
over there
Hello,
back
Back
in
in,
everyone.
America.
yeah, I'm not in the same
Yeah,
room as you anymore. It was
Oh,
fun.
we uh,
I
we
was.
we lost our contract for that plugin that allowed us to look
Yeah.
like we're in
To
the
be
same
physically
place.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're headed towards the future. Guys, there's no shortage of transformation going on in the world. We here at the Great Transition are looking at that transformation that's going on in the world. It's an epic time. It's a historical time as we move from living you notice that to look at the evolution of humanity, everything was much more coarser tools, coarser machines, everything made out of rocks, bows and arrows, all these kind of very crude things. And then you get to now where we're talking about like nanotechnology or chat GPT. The evolution, the movement has gone from what we would call coarse tools or coarse vessels to much more pure. Then all of our work now, we'll see actually more and more as everything becomes more robotic and less people. Actually, didn't you show us something recently that the stress at work used to be on the body? I think this is unrelated, but you showed us something this week that the
Um,
stress now is more on the mind,
our
right?
friend from the UK sent us this study
Well, that's
that
where it was from,
shows,
from Chris, from
yeah,
Chris.
from Chris Dawson from the
Right.
UK,
So,
longtime Kabbalist.
so
Yeah.
the evolution of humanity is going from more coarse and physical to more subtle and more delicate discernments in the mind. Now, um,
If you want to, I have it at hand actually. If you want
yeah,
to
show
look
it
at.
for a sec. Show it for a sec.
Okay, just let me see. There's
Interesting
actually.
infographic when you look at it like that.
Yeah. Okay, one sec, and you get it. Here
Ow!
it is. There we go.
Sorry.
You okay?
Ooh,
Burned my
Chris,
mouth.
you good?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you
This
full?
Too
is
Are you
hot.
this
full?
is the
Too
graph.
hot.
Basically, the red line here shows, and which is going down. It is showing how the effects of like muscular skeletal disorders, like actual toll on our body from work. So that has gone down from the beginning and
Mm-hmm.
before of the century, and what has went dramatically and diametrically opposed to that up is the toll that works takes on our mental well-being. So stress, depression, anxiety, all of that went up. So yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that. So, but simultaneously, while we went from everybody working in the field like 80+% of the United States were farm workers. Today it's less than 3%, and most of the work on the farm is done by machines anyway. When we went through this transformation of this heavy physical work to now more refined as a species to more refined mental work, there is an interesting, very kind of difficult and confusing concept in the wisdom of Kabbalah called the inverse relation between lights and vessels. This causes
Ooh,
all of the confusion, I would say, or
going so deep so early, Seth. What do you
majority
have planned for us? Okay.
of the confusion in our world, and it also our kind of ignorance of the upper governance comes from not really understanding this. I'll try and encapsulate it very easily that our ego today, right? If in the past, if you didn't eat for 3 days, could be normal. Today, if you lose your phone for 15 minutes, it's like a world class tragedy. So our egos are becoming more and more coarse. So while we're
Yeah.
moving towards this more and more mental and emotional development, at the same time, our desires, our physical desires, our emotional desires are becoming more and more coarse. Now, what is this thing called the inverse relation of lights and vessels? When we receive some kind of blow to our ego, to a deep, like a big loss, it's at this time that we get a more kind of refined understanding of life.
Mm.
It's through this that we suddenly
Yep.
begin to understand
Yep.
life
Little
better.
clarity.
we begin to understand spirituality better. We understand what's going on here. So when smaller things happen, we don't have those kind of spiritual awakenings or discernments. But when something hits the ego on a deep, deep level, and meaning when you have some big, crude, egoistic desire that's unfulfilled, so then we have this kind of despair, then in the mind we start making all these kind of discernments. Now it's when we look at the previous generations, called the first millennia, for 2 millennia, and the second 2 millennia, the greats, who, all the sages who revealed the Torah and brought the Torah, and the prophets and the kings and all that, we could say that they were much, much, much greater as far as their souls go than us. And all that's left.
Is this a biblical podcast? Just to make sure I understand I'm in the right place. Is this a
I'm trying to
Torah
set up the
podcast?
depravity.
No. I'm with you. I'm just
the absolute depravity.
I'm just helping our
viewers.
viewers.
I'm trying to justify myself in the absolute depravity I'm about to show you. So I'm just throwing out some important words in the first.
Oh, it's a preparation.
The other stuff, we end up in the middle somewhere. So in our generation, the essence of the souls are like the worst, but there's just a small action we need to make to kind of complete it. Like in a family, for example, grandpa came to America on a boat, and dad kind of built a house, and all that happens is the grandkid is born and everybody's happy. He didn't have to do anything. The child, all you need to do is just that a child is born. It activates all of the previous generations. And that's kind of like us in this world today. We don't have to build buildings and conquer nations or anything. It's just a small smile towards the whole system that we're in. Now, put that aside for a minute, but keep that somewhere in there. That where we are.
I just feel like it needs to be reiterated in simpler words, because you're going fast. You're glossing over these like huge ideas. I mean, for people who are new to Kabbalah or have no prior knowledge, I don't know if they'll get any of this.
That's how I felt for the first 15 years in the class.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's your okay.
That's his approach.
No, I wasn't trying to go there, but I wanted to just put this out there.
So you're saying you're
going deeply into it.
Okay, so without going deeply into it, you're saying, just to kind of give it
summarize us a little bit.
Summarize it. You're basically saying this entire correction process, calibration process, that spiritual development process that all of humanity has to go through. In our time, we are the most remote from it. We are the worst, and yet all we need to do for that to happen to us is the smallest effort. Whereas in the past, people were more kind of closer to it by their nature.
And their egos weren't as developed as ours,
Their ego weren't as developed, and therefore their effort was also smaller greater, you're saying, compared to ours. Yeah?
But that
Yeah,
small,
so
that
for
small
them-
effort
No,
we have to
it's
make is also
actually-
difficult for us.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about the amount, it's the difficulty. So that's another relative thing.
Yeah.
So we have a
we
very
think,
small effort to make, but it's very difficult for us, as it was difficult for them to do their efforts, but it's very small compared to what the
and
they
also
have to-
we're not going to the temple sacrificing animals, or we don't have to sleep in the desert for a few decades. For us, just as you showed that graph at the beginning, our work isn't as much with the arms and the legs and the whole body. It's more of an emotional and mental transformation.
Right.
It's a spiritual transformation, but that it comes from inner, more refined discernments, not from needing to get a goat, bringing him to a certain place at a certain time of the month, killing him a certain way, putting his fat over there, making a barbecue over there, doing all of these different physical things.
Right.
We've
There's
been
all
relieved.
difference
We've been
in-
relieved of all these.
in that as well. Okay, so now that we have this, we I think at the beginning of a movie, they kind of give you foreshadowing. They present a lot of things, and then they get into the heart of the movie. So that's just a little bit of the foreshadowing and just setting up what's going to go on. Now, guys, for many years, I'd go into New York and would be amazed that people weren't killing each other. Because you walk down the street, and you see a Muslim guy, and a Jewish guy, and an Indian guy, and a guy in a turban, and a guy in a baseball hat, and a guy like this.
It sounds like one of your songs, man.
You see everybody walking together, and you're like, why isn't somebody just turning around and stabbing, punching, shooting someone? Well, guys, they are now. So those
okay. So
whatever-
those days of contemplating that are over for you.
Yeah, we're
Finally,
laughing.
your prophecy
You shouldn't
has
be laughing, but
has materialized.
the point is
Yeah.
that there was some sort of unwritten agreement between everyone that we were going to all kind of keep our stuff
Right.
to ourselves enough that we'll all be able to get along.
Live
For
and let
example,
live type of thing.
yeah, I'm with you. You cut me off at McDonald's. You walk in front of me and cut the line, or you don't give me my hot sauce on time, or we're walking down, I'm waiting in the airport and I'm really, really frustrated, and I maybe hear it the wrong way, but I don't turn around and start a fight about it.
Right.
But I don't watch
Those
TV that
examples that you gave right now are things that are actually literally
I'm
happening.
going to
right
show
now,
you,
right?
and I'm
Real-life
really trying
examples,
to.
yeah.
I'm really trying to justify myself before I show you these examples
Okay.
of what a good person I am, and that I'm not looking at these things all the time. But I'm trying to get from time to time, we have to understand what's going on in the world. I can't really trust mainstream media, so I use different social media accounts from here and from here and from here and from here, and try and kind of piece together what the heck is going on. Who's lying? Okay, this one's lying to me like this, and this one's lying to me like this, and if I put them together, I can kind of get something.
Yeah.
It just so happens that somehow in my feed, I'm constantly now getting street like fights in fast food. I don't know how it's entering my feed, but now through my searching for all different kinds of people to put together some kind of picture of reality, my feed is full now of. I'm going to show you what it's full of.
Another word, brawl. A brawl.
Okay, I'm going to show you.
Brawls.
And they're not. This is not. So this one is great. Watch this. She's like a superhero. Watch. Okay, this is one fast food place.
Oh, whoa. Whoa,
Can you
nice
see it?
block.
Can you see?
Oh no! Oh, she just threw a chair at her. No. You
Wait a
went to
second.
something
It
else.
jumped and then it stopped.
It jumped to
and then
something else. Yeah, I just saw
Okay.
a chair going into the air. Here it is.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, she did like
Okay.
a
Okay. So hold on.
Mr.
Can you see my
American
screen
block
right
there,
now?
the shoe.
Yeah.
you
We
see
saw the
the one
video
Wendy's fight at
too.
Wendy's.
New Year's. Do you see the one that says New Year's Eve fight at Wendy's?
Yes, we just saw it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a different one.
Okay. So this is stuff that people are just posting on Twitter these days. That's the
this
People are
is
just
just-
walking into restaurants
is
and just starting. They're just gonna filming immediately.
maybe
Yeah,
it'll
this is just
become
people-
No
one of the tourist attractions in the U.S. Just
This is
we're
everywhere.
gonna go into some
This is the Wendy's in
everyday
Houston,
restaurants.
Texas. I
This is
heard
the
a lot of-
Wendy's.
Yeah.
We might, if we will be quiet, we might catch a brawl. Get your phones ready.
Right.
It's like
Yeah, exactly.
it's so zooish.
everything
It's
looks
not-
paused.
It's not limited to skin color, by the way. Everybody is an equal opportunity
to be
brawler.
violent. Yeah.
Everyone. Yup. It's
It's
not
just.
limited.
Are
to
you seeing
any-
this play, stuff?
No,
It just
you're
looks
not
like
playing
nothing.
this one. No, I see it. Are you playing?
Oh,
Seth?
that's. Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It's
You don't see
paused.
it?
Now you're gone completely.
Oh,
When you
bummer.
share,
Okay, I
when
just
you
showed
share the
you so many
screen,
good
just
ones.
hit that check mark that says share video something.
Optimize for video.
Optimize
Oh,
for
bummer.
video,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
closed so many good windows. There were so many good ones. Can you see this?
We can see it, but I'm not seeing
Yeah.
it playing.
I see something. You haven't pressed play yet. Go ahead and press play.
Okay,
Let's
how
see.
about that?
Yeah,
one?
we
You
see
see this?
it now. Yeah, we see
It's
it.
a little choppy. It's a little choppy.
It's choppy.
Okay, this one looks like it's at a. This one looks like it's at a sports arena or something.
Yeah, it is choppy. I
Kicking.
don't know why,
This
but
is-
okay, describe to us. Yeah.
Okay, it's a few women kicking another woman to the ground.
Of course, they
That was
caught that
that one.
on camera instead of helping. Yep. Okay.
This
Instead of
is on an
breaking it up.
airplane. You see this
We
one? The
see
way.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so
Play it.
You want to shoot that?
Okay.
Oh wait, I
Okay,
don't know about
now
full
we
screen.
don't see it. When you go full screen, we stop seeing. So just go
Okay.
back. Go back. Yeah, we see it now.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's,
yeah.
She's being
Okay,
escorted.
they're dragging somebody off.
Ah,
of the
someone's
flight
being
because-
escorted out of the plane.
Okay, and here's one more. This is a.
She's not flying again.
The Walmart ones are always good.
Walmart. Yeah. Walmart.
Walmart. Oh my God. Oh, this is very
This is an
bad.
actual brawl. This is. Oh, she's got
Wow. Oh
some
no.
weapons. So she picked up one of those gates, one of those
Oh no.
barrier.
Yeah, we're seeing
This
this.
is like.
We're
see
seeing
this?
this. Oh no.
This is.
Oh
is
my
really
God.
Can we? Yeah.
This is
There's
it's
some
it's
tiny-
it's
some
really
tiny-
like it's out of control. Completely
out of control. Out of control. It seems, and it's like every day these things are coming up in my social media feed.
Wait a second. Are you getting a reason for how are these starting? You mentioned the hot sauce. I've also heard like you didn't give me my hot sauce on time. But okay, so that's one example. It sounds
And
kind of
and
crazy.
this is
but,
not
like,
being
what's happening there?
covered in the mainstream media as a brawl epidemic or anything of that sort.
I don't know. I'm not
Right?
watching mainstream media. I just so
I don't know. I'm
wild.
asking. I don't know. U.S. mainstream media is not something I watch every day, so I don't know.
I haven't seen that, but what? So I'm trying to relate this to the inverse relation of lights and vessels.
Oh no.
And
Okay, good
the
luck.
state of our generation. But there's something happened where the coarseness of our generation, it's come to the point where everybody just wants what they want now with no regard for anyone else. To the point, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I do. First of all, from looking into this, how prevalent is this? Like, how much is this? Because I have to say, when I just look at it quickly, if I don't know what's going on, I'm like, okay, this is it's like a one kind of. It's not a one-off. This is, you're saying if you look for it, you'll find it everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Okay, here's another one. This is a story that just came up in my newsfeed at 5 o'clock this morning. Newlywed 22 is stabbed to death during New Year's Day machete attack at the Dollar Tree in Ohio. So somebody came into a Dollar Tree, like a dollar store, and just macheted the person working there. Like what?
Well, that sounds a little bit different. That sounds like a little bit of different.
it sounds like
motivation.
a lunacy, like a person who like a planned murder. It sounds.
It sounds
like.
more of first degree kind of.
Yeah.
From what I understand, they didn't know the person. The point is, these are just
Wow.
Yeah, these are not like premeditated. The whole point of all this, what I was trying to, I guess I didn't do a good job of explaining. This isn't premeditated attacks on people.
Right.
This is, I'm standing in the store and somebody looks at me the wrong
Right.
way.
Yeah.
Or takes the item I want, and no, we all remember like Christmas a few years ago.
Okay,
where, like,
this is
there was
important.
dolls that-
I got it. This is the big point here. We're not talking about gangs. We're not talking about like, the underground world, people fighting with each other. We're just talking about people, losing their temper and just losing their
That's what it sounds like
temper?
it is. Just losing temper, right?
and
that's kind of just
right? And then,
I
like-
don't get my hot sauce and I'm mad at you is kind
Like,
of what I understand.
so
yeah.
violence can basically be, something that erupts anywhere, like in a waffle store, at a McDonald's store, in Walmart. Like that's where we are. And you're saying you've seen like a bunch of these, like everywhere.
Endless. So just curious wrote in the chat, Denver, Colorado's violence has skyrocketed. So maybe somebody who knows about this can tell us a little bit about it. I don't know if it's a need to know says U.S. media reports nothing negative in any Democratic state. 1 million people have left New York and California. So, what I wanted to point out is this phenomenon. And let's be clear. We've all felt like driving down the highway that I just want to like someone cuts you off and you just want to, but we don't. But now people do. You've
Right.
all been like in the store and somebody looks at you a certain way or cuts you in line, and you just want to, but you don't. But now people are.
Right.
And that's like jumping
Okay.
over the counter at McDonald's and grabbing the hair of the person there and banging it onto the counter. Because what happened at McDonald's that was so dramatic and problematic?
The first thing that comes to me when you describe it like that is like, clearly this is like childish, like it's like people have a very childish, underdeveloped, limited capacity of self-restraint. It just seems like, because this is what kids do. This is what kids do. They, ask my wife. She's, she runs a daycare. Kids fighting with each other and getting physical about it is something that is unavoidable for kids. That's how they build their, kind of critical faculties about who am I and who is the other person, and this is his and this is mine, and now we have a conflict of interest, so we need to learn how to solve it. This is like, these are things that we are supposed to be developing, all of these abilities to get along, at least to not kill each other, throw chairs at each other, bang each other's heads in the counter. These are skills that we are supposed to be developing from when we're 3-year-olds.
Oh, that's why they say when you wrestle with your children a lot, you're growing your sensitivity to like another person's
absolutely.
pain threshold, feeling like what hurts, what doesn't hurt. Yeah, you're developing that yourself as you're engaging. That's harmless.
Wrestling as a game actually develops your social skills, because you learn, you get to feel through your opponent, so to speak. You get to feel, oh, I'm hurting them too much, or they're hurting me. This is me, this is them. You feel this kind of thing. Animals do it too as a play. They wrestle with each other, a lot of kinds of animals, and that it develops their social skills. So something has gone wrong. If this is now becoming a phenomenon, like a nationwide phenomenon or something like that, this means something has gone very wrong with our critical faculties, with our self-restraint, with our ability to cope with our immediate urges. Right? This is what's going on here. Now, Seth, you want to take it to the opposite value between the inverse relation between lights and vessels, but
without reaching such coarseness, we'd be unable to reach the kind of discernments and understanding of the spiritual reality. It requires such a level of coarseness in humanity. If you went back, 200,000 years, we were very far from reaching any kind of spiritual awakening.
So it sounds like, from what you're saying, that the spiritual process, the global spiritual development process of humanity, necessitates these eruptions of violence. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
It necessitates the eruption of the ego. It doesn't necessarily necessitate the eruption of the expression of the ego, as a war between Russia and Ukraine, or even a brawl in every store in town, or it does not necessitate what the purpose of our show, the purpose of our method of the wisdom of Kabbalah that we got from Bala Islam, is that how do we, with this negative force that is developing us, it's pushing us to be individuals, this force that pushes us to be more and more individualistic, more and more egoistic, the further we get away from instinctual, animalistic life, how we were back when we lived in little villages, and before that when we were much more animal-like. This negative force is developing us, comes the wisdom of Kabbalah and says, okay, well, now how do you add that other positive force to it in order to make a light shine between those two poles? But without that, what we see is the world is becoming totally unhinged, guys.
Yeah, unhinged
happening at an
is a good way to describe it, I feel. Yeah.
And it's happening at an alarming rate. And it's happening all over the place, and at a certain point, people aren't going to want to leave their home.
Yeah, let me dwell on a little bit more on like the environmental conditions that at least contribute, if not directly, trigger these behavior. I mean, we as individuals, we look at people's individual behavior and we go, oh, look at that video you just showed us. This girl threw a chair at the other girl. It's like we're looking at it at or this person started, hitting this other
That's
person.
like resolution degree number 1 of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The first
It's
initial
like
way,
it's the most superficial kind of like initial, very external
observation.
consequence that we're observing. Yeah, it's like very superficial observation. We're only seeing consequences. This runs deep. It has to do with like the cultural music, the cultural climate that surrounds these individuals and becomes the sort of like the air that they breathe,
Right.
that breeds with double E.
It's
that-
clearly being
that breeds
promoted
violence.
in
Yeah.
a certain way. Yeah.
And I think one of those environmental, cultural kind of like conditions is how the growth of the ego, as Seth was talking about, led us to such a culture that demands instant gratification. Like immediately, I want what I want right here, right now. And if it's not good enough, I'm just going to swipe you. Like, how do you choose a date today? You swipe left and right, right? How do you choose like something interesting to watch on TikTok or, or YouTube or whatever? You just keep swiping. If something is not to my liking, I'm not going to spend any more than a second on it. I'm just going to go ahead and flip to the other thing. And so
That's also cancel culture. It's like instant justification too. I
Ooh,
need this
that's
needs
a
to be
good point.
justified immediately. Cancel
Yep.
them, or get them,
Yep.
erase them from the planet, or I'm gonna put this fist in your face. Kind of immediate.
Yeah,
a person may not think of it as pleasure.
No, it is.
But it
It's
is.
Entitlement, whether it's like there's a bunch of things here that are playing out. This growth of the ego that Seth was talking about that makes us so different, so very different from people that lived even just hundreds of years ago, even just a few decades ago.
It's
the
so hard to
people-
imagine what a person 100 years ago was like. But just imagine
I mean,
less
think-
of this.
Let's just try. It's so different, but let's just try to list all those things. This 21st century culture that we're in, you're desensitized to violence more than any other person in the past, I would say. Just because desensitized, not in the sense people tortured other people in the
Not
past.
the Roman Colosseum kind of thing.
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
right.
Okay, but today, when I mean desensitized, I mean in the sense that you're seeing some things like this on Twitter, and you keep going about your life, and then you see more and more headlines that could be talking about violence and murder and all kinds of things, and you just keep going about your life. The person that lives today, absorbs the amount of information that people 50 years ago maybe absorbed in a week. We go through that just quickly, so we're becoming desensitized to a lot of things. We demand instant gratification. Social media is and the way it works, and other issues with our society are creating this kind of dopamine culture, right? Where we're getting addicted basically to dopamine hits because we
Also, it's intensifying.
yeah.
Because Seth is getting it all the time. He's getting all this, so everyone else must be being fed those examples as well, which also puts into a person's even subconscious that this is a accepted kind of behavior. So it's even magnified on that degree too. I don't know. I hear you.
Yeah. And also,
yeah.
And also, I think in addition to all of that, we today are very materialistic, very external. I mean that in the sense that most people are very far from their inner world. And what that means is that the practice of, how many people are engaged with, looking into themselves, introspection, meditation, even things like that. I'm not even
Oh,
talking
we talked
about.
about profound boredom last time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even talking about the Kabbalistic technology yet. I'm just talking about people, taking time to observe their own thoughts, behaviors, motivations, understand themselves, look at themselves from a side, understand their urges a little bit. We're very far from that. We're very much constantly stimulated and distracted on the outside with this constant feeds and scrolls and social media and white noise, and everybody's competing for our attention, that we have very less attention, very little attention to what's going on inside of us. And I think that contributes to that as well.
That's a huge factor,
So
really.
this development is unstoppable, the development of the ego, right? And if it's not clear to everybody yet, just kind of think about it. Think about where humans were, think about where we were as 30 and 40-year-olds, as children in the back seat of the car with a coloring book and like a
Right.
few radio stations and maybe a Walkman with a cassette. That was our childhood. Before that, our parents were in the back of the car with no Walkman, no cassette, a few radio stations in
No
the car.
seatbelt.
No seatbelt. And maybe
And before that, they weren't even in a car. They were playing outside somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, or they were in a horse and buggy, and
Yeah.
you go back. You don't have to go back that far to see how much more simple everything was. So
And when it's
as-
dark, it's dark. Like, what are you doing? Nah, it's dark. Nothing.
Here's
You're going to
one
sleep,
example. Here's a simple example, that I think is really relatable and makes a good point about this. Just movies, films, Look at the I'm sure that if someone put this on a graph, hey, anyone who's watching, if you want to put this on a graph or find something like that, that'll be really cool. I'm sure that if you looked at the amount and the magnitude of explosions and violence and sex and and speed of everything that's happening in movies 50 years ago versus today, everything has to be bigger, greater, faster, more explosive, more violence, more explosions,
okay, but
more
listen, but what we're saying
Same
is,
thing with drugs like fentanyl.
no, but it's
So
it's
but
interesting
here's the
that
thing.
you just to look at the trend. Why do we need that as entertainment? Why do we need that?
But let's say, let's definitely, as Kabbalists, and I know you're not, but just to make it clear to everyone, we're not ethicists or moralists and saying, when we were kids, we were bored in the backseat of the car with our coloring book, not like kids today. No, that's not the point.
No,
The
you just
point
want to
is-
recognize the trend. Yeah.
No, just
There's a
to
trend.
look at the
The
trend
ego-
and explain it, what is happening and why. Go ahead.
So the question is, the trend is the natural development, meaning only God is to blame for this, meaning only nature is to blame for this, that the ego is developing, erupting. Okay?
Yes.
This is from the side of nature, blame it on God. So now for us, what is the counterforce?
Right. So wait. So you say blame it on God. Let's go to the counterforce, but let's unpack that for a second. Why does God or nature, the creator, nature's program, from a Kabbalistic perspective, it's all one and the same. It's synonymous, and also the numerical value of God and nature in Hebrew is the same. It's 86, which basically means that they have the same inner contents from a Kabbalistic perspective. So when we say this is nature's plan, that the ego is growing, right? Why? Why is that? I think let's dwell on this for a second, and then we can maybe get to find a way to explain the counterforce that's required to prevent.
Why is what?
Why is this happening? Why is the ego growing? Let's talk about that for a second. This is why is it in nature's plan? Why is it required? Why is it part of evolution?
I don't know if a person even asked that question. I think a normal person would even answer something like, "Oh,
Just because?
humanity will always be, they'll always be looking out for number one." I don't know if there's a trend that's recognizable that people themselves are becoming more egoistic.
So maybe let's
There's
not
just more
start
people and more facts.
more people.
More people, more circumstances, more scenarios.
I think it's easier for
Everything's
people.
on film.
I think it's easy for people to agree that if people in the past were less individualistic, egoistic. They were more instinctively connected to each other and to nature. They lived closer
You,
to
you
how
would, there
animals
was no
lives in packs or in groups or in social species. Yeah.
there was no city lights. So you noticed that every time this arrangement of stars passed over, it was going to be time for the plants to come out of the ground. And you noticed that every time the moon was doing such and such, the tide was doing such and such. You just
Yep.
felt it. You lived with it. But you didn't have much awareness of yourself outside of that system. You were one with the system. You had no choice. When it got dark out, there was nowhere to go and nothing to do. When it got cold at night, you had to get warm. You didn't have a refrigerator. When the animals moved, you moved. When the berries moved, you moved. That's just how it was. You were
Right.
totally tied to the system. The benefit that we have of being totally removed from the system is we can reflect upon it and actually reach what we call godliness. We can actually attain, we're not chained to the system. We're not chained to having to sleep when the sun goes down and wake when the sun comes up and eat only when there's an animal nearby. We actually start to have control over all of reality through this removal, like for the creation. The whole idea, the whole concept is we're kind of like outside of it. We
Yeah.
in some way, and from there we can start to say, what is it? Who am I? Where is it? And then come to understand what power there is in this world, who we are, where we came from, where we're going, what is all this beyond time and space.
And I want to
But in
say,
the meantime, everyone's
yeah.
just bothering. There's just a bunch of people. Sorry. There's
No,
in the
no, go
meantime
ahead.
a bunch of people are just bothering me. That's just what it seems like. Yeah, you took me back. You took me back to doing my chickens on the farm and everything, and then a few hundred years later, just people are bothering me all the time. I'm just constantly being bothered by other people. That kind of concept seems like it maybe was lacking before.
Let
A while ago.
let me throw another perspective here, Kabbalistic perspective here on the growth of the ego, and I'm sorry if it's a little teachy. but we have to, because we wanted to get to the counterforce that is required, right? We want to talk about how to make life better here from a Kabbalistic perspective. How can we avoid these chairs being thrown at a Waffle House? Does this have to happen? Do we have to have wars on the street and between countries? No, we don't. We have to have the growth of the ego. So how do we go about that? What do we do with that? So I think we need to first put on the table that everything develops by two opposite forces. We identify what we call the growth of the ego that we talked about now on the human level, but the two opposite forces that run through evolution, they run through all of nature. And essentially what you're seeing throughout all of evolution, doesn't matter if you're looking at just stars and planets or bacteria that evolved for billions of years or plant life or animal life, you always see that nature rises or brings evolution from one level of life to a higher level of life by greater diversity, greater individualism, greater individuality and differences between things, and then greater connection between those different things. And that's how you create a higher level of life. That's what creates a higher level of being.
Give us one natural example to understand.
So one natural
It's clear, but
example
just-
is with bacteria, that at first you had these very simple life forms that were very, very similar, and then they individuated. and they became many different kinds of bacteria. But then those many different kinds of bacteria, over a long time, we're talking about a billion or billion and a half years, those single-celled, different, diverse, individual bacteria learned how to form more advanced, completely new advanced connections between them that turned them into multicellular organisms. So these multicellular organisms, which by the way make up any kind of organism that ever existed on this planet, any plant, any animal, any human body that you are familiar with, it's all multicellular beings. These multicellular beings, they are comprised of cells that are what? Different, right? Your liver, your lung, your skeletal cells, your muscular cells, all of those are very different beings inside of you. And there's trillions of bacteria just in your gut. All of those very different kinds of life forms with even doing different functions, even opposite functions. And yet they found a more advanced kind of connection that doesn't cancel their individuality, but they found a way to complement each other. And human beings today are at a point where the ego grew to a level that has never been before, has never seen before. We're so individualistic.
Hold on.
We're
So let's talk
yeah.
about that for a minute. There were Genghis Khan, there was Mao Zedong, there were genocides, and there were wars where they chopped off people's hands.
All the examples you're giving are
Yeah.
are examples of a big leader, a strong man, a totalitarian dictator or something like that rules over many people. This is very different from today. Today, every person is their own dictator. Today, the clashes are mostly about our identity. Why do you see all this gender wars today and all of the, I want to be this and I want to be that and I don't have to be this thing and I don't have to be that thing. You see it in politics. You see it around racism. You see it around sex. You see it around everything. It's not the same. So you had violence, of course. You had people being tortured. You had people horribly killing a lot of people, but the structure of humanity back then was much more collective. Millions of people were actually not millions, but the farther you go, we only became 8 billion people just in the last 150 years or something like that. So we were also very much less in quantity. But all of those, let's say up to 2 billion people of humanity that lived in the last, few thousand years until we reached that, it was mostly organized, most of humanity organized in big groups. And it was a very collectivist societies. Sure, we still had many different groups and societies, but the ego was not as developed. Today, a person can't even agree with himself. You know what I mean? Like you need to be. There's so much diversity and differences in individualism that
you're always looking for how to be more different too. How to be more particular, special.
And that's the growth of the ego. And that did not exist before. You did not have that kind of human being before that is so individualistic, so Kabbalah calls it, how does it call it in the Peace in the World article? The quality of, in Hebrew it's yichidiyut, the quality of uniqueness or the quality of singularity, meaning every person's desire to be singular, to be one and unique and no one else is like me, is what's growing and showing itself in the 21st century.
But that's interesting. That's an interesting point, because where does that desire come from? If a person could take 5 seconds out of the day, think about why is it that I want to be, where does that, just like why is a steak tasty in my throat, So if you think about that for a second, it's like kind of a strange thing. Why do I want to feel so unique and similar? Just a little tidbit, Kabbalists say that comes from our root, where we came from before, because as this one singular force that created all of reality, we are connected to it, we are adhered to it, we came from it, and so we have that same desire within us also. It's just expressed completely opposite, completely egoistically. So it's not like it exists like it incorrectly exists. There's no reason for it to exist. It's just manifesting itself in this extremely egoistic way, and to a point where it harms everybody. Also, when you see people throwing chairs and getting in fights and everything, it's also this protection mechanism, protecting my pride, my me, my I. You know, I need to take care of my me. It's not just all the time give me my hot sauce, and otherwise I'm gonna beat you down. It's kind of like, oh, you're not gonna give me the hot sauce. I'm this person. I'm this big. So that's also just another shade of the ego growing.
Yeah. We wanted to get to the counterforce. That's why we went all that way. But yeah, go ahead.
The counterforce.
Yeah, how do we cope then with this growing ego? Okay, it's part
I
of
thought we were
evolution.
just gonna blow it up. Just blow it up. Just let's start over. Like a new NBA team. It's like this group of people. They're not making it. Just blow it up. Start over. Get a new roster going. We'll see how it goes. That's not gonna work.
The reason, so Asaf pointed out that everyone is becoming more and more like each person feels like they're the center of the world. Everyone feels like they're their own dictator. The battles within inside themselves. Chris comes and says the reason why this is like that is because actually our root is singular. We all came from this singular root where which contains everything, which is the power. And so we, like mango doesn't grow out of an apricot tree, like our root is singular unity. So we feel like we are the singular unity. The problem comes though, and it is that we feel like that at the expense of everyone else, and because of that, it's causing the destruction of all of the natural systems. We're totally opposite.
We're
using it in the exact opposite.
Where was it? I just read today. I mean, it's no longer news, and there you go. Here you go. Check this out. Stanford scientists warned that civilization as we know it will end in next few decades. Humanity is very busily sitting on a limb that we're sawing off. Okay, next article. You know what I mean? It's becoming. Look, it's so funny that we are, as a species, we're seeing that we're sawing off the branch that we're sitting on. It's very obvious. It's very obvious to us. And yet, we can't move. We can't move.
Well, I have an idea.
Anything.
How about you spend a couple $1 billion in a few maybe even a decade? The first Avatar that came out was like almost 11 years or something, right? It came out like 11 years ago. So Avatar, right? James Cameron.
I think it's more like 14 years ago. But anyway, yeah.
Because I remember being inspired by it the first time before a couple or whatever. But they came out with another one, right? And so what's happening there? Basically, you're being shown this humanoid, this human part of the universe, wherever, finds a planet and just wants to rape it, take all the resources, right? So they're kind of considered the villains in the story. And then the story happens on this beautiful planet where they have like these local creatures, right? And they're connected to nature there. And it kind of, while you're watching it, you're kind of like, oh yeah, those human bad guys, they just want to take all the resources and harm other people. It reminds me of this. Did you ever watch the Peep Show with what's his name, David Mitchell and James Webb? I think they're like some English guys.
I have no idea.
They have like
what
this
that
little.
is.
They have this like little comedy bit. I'll send you later. They have this like little comedy bit, and it's like all satire. And both of the comedians are dressed up as like Nazis, and they're shooting. And then like one of them looks at the other one. He's like, hey, are we the baddies? Like, are we like the bad guys? Like they're in the Nazi uniform. And they're like, I don't know. He's like, what are we? Look how many people we're killing. Like, so it's like kind of making a joke about, wait a second, we're the bad guys here. Like we're the ones doing bad, and they're like, oh, and they have this like kind of realization. I kind of had that feeling when you're watching the movie. I know that you probably didn't watch the movie, and maybe I saw the new one. I saw the new one called what's it called? Avatar. Something about an ocean world or water world. Yeah, something about water. So it's basically the same movie as the first one.
We did not watch it, and we don't have to because you already did.
You don't have to. I took the bullet. I'll take it. That's fine. Because I still have a thing for it because it rubbed me the right way the first time. But when you're watching it, you're seeing like the human who's coming and just, without any consideration for this planet and nature and all the things that they're killing, and you identify, you're like, oh yeah, those guys are bad, that's the bad race or whatever, and then you really get drawn into this other side of these other characters who are like really connected with nature, right? And they enjoy being together with like the grass, laying in the grass, and they can even like they have their hair, they take it and they plug it into a tree, and they can like have this like spiritual awakening,
the blue creatures in Avatar, that's their thing. They're like, we are naturey thing.
Very naturey. Like I'm connected with the fish, and even you can even like control the animals, control the like how the plants move and stuff. So there's like they're trying to Hollywood is trying to like say, hey, yeah, we know that you like this, we know you like this connection with nature. It makes you feel really warm, and it's right actually. Yeah, we do have this connection. We do have like this feeling like, yeah, I want to be connected with nature. I want to feel it. But at the same time, it leaves something to be desired, because you're like, yeah, it's nice to like have this longing, right, with nature, that you want to be close to it. You want to somehow feel it, but you always leave the movie with like this fairy tale, like it's crap, it's like, of course that's not how it is, but still they are playing on something within you that does want to be connected with nature. It's interesting how Hollywood's able to do it. Of course they do it in a very Hollywood way, but we always kind of like, we're still stuck inside that box of like like using nature the wrong way. It's like, okay, I want to go and be with the fish. So you go out into the beach and it just seems like you're just going to the beach. Like, where's the James Cameron Avatar feeling that I got when, they're sitting on the beach? Why can't I sit on the beach and feel that I'm connected with, all the plants and sea animals around me? It makes you feel like something's like, something's off, right? But still there's a desire when you go and you watch this movie called Avatar, you get all warmy fuzzy when you feel that they're enjoying from being around nature. So it's this interesting disconnect. I know you don't have to go watch it, but I know you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
I think it's very cool in the midst of everything we talked about before, all this unhinged violence, that we're seeing. Yet, Hollywood, being Hollywood, it creates movies for millions of people to make millions of dollars, and they also spend millions of dollars, for this whole industry to keep like running itself. But they are smart in that they're not doing things that won't work. They have their own marketing and R&D and research departments and all that. So they're playing on some need that people have. They're using some story to sell something that speaks to people's cravings, and apparently people relate to, get emotional by, get moved by this idea of these blue creatures that are connected to nature. That I think is interesting. They're onto something that's real. As humans, we have this, especially being the 21st century modern material human beings that we are. There's a longing for some connection with nature, but the way that they approach it and describe it obviously is completely off. I mean, just think about it, right? How you explained it, right? Those blue creatures, they take their hair or something, plug it to a plant, right? Something like that.
Like, how else do you expect them to?
No, I mean,
it's creative, but
think
still.
about it. So what is really connection to nature for a human being? From a Kabbalistic perspective, what is it really? I mean, think about it. You have right now in immediate, disrupted connection with 50 trillion cells, with trillions of bacteria, with so many things that are happening in your body. Do you feel connected to them? Do you feel like you are thinking about all the cells and all those little beings in your body that make up your body? You have no connection to them.
You can even say, I feel separated from it. You can even say, I feel separated. So
what does it mean to... So now... so people think about connection to nature as connecting to the trees, hugging trees and connecting to the earth and the soil. You can ask all kinds of, gurus from India about, connecting to the soil and all kinds of things like that. And I'm not disregarding that. And that, of course, is something.
There is something there.
No. Yeah. Indigenous cultures were connected to nature through that. There's no doubt they had respect and awe and reverence towards nature, the forces of nature. But the kind of...
Hold on one sec. One sec here. I'm just trying to digest everything. I'm trying to like put it all in and like tie it all up and put it here. Take the people now who have developed to the point of beating the crap out of each other in Waffle House and Walmart, and how to bring that to, because it's if I just plug my hair in and I just feel bliss of nature, there's no me, and there's no individual desire anymore. I'm just now canceled completely into the natural system, like the indigenous people, or you're taking peyote on a mountaintop or something like that. But if we have developed as a society to feel opposite from nature, but we can somehow then connect with the minus force is so big. If there's a plus force that's so big, now we're talking, now that's something specific to this generation that never was before in any of the previous generations. It's something specific to this historic moment we're in
Yes, the kind of connection, the level of connection that we need to form with nature and with each other, by the way, which is the same part, it's inseparable, is a more advanced level of connection. Again, go back to evolution. What do we see in 14 billion years of evolution? We see greater diversity, greater individuation, or greater ego developing in mankind, and greater, more complex connection. So we grew around the planet, and then we created the internet that connects us. We grew, from out of villages into cities, and we created transportation systems. For example, today we have to create the kind of conscious, mental, emotional bridges between us that are consciously above our own ego. We have to feel the resistance, feel how separate, different, diverse we are, individualistic we are, not dissolve into nature like cultures of the past did, not lose our individuality into the hive mind, not forget who we are, be the individuals that we are, the egoistic human beings, 21st century modern people that we are, with our independent consciousness, and yet with that find a more advanced connection that's built on conscious efforts towards connecting with each other, above the instinct, above the other force within us that makes us separate, that makes us diverse, that makes us unique. That's where we'll find a higher level of being. That's the whole point of nature. That's the whole point of evolution. That's the whole point of what we're going through. That's why this is happening, because we have to rise to a higher level of being, not go to the past and be, anyway, yeah, go ahead.
That's just what it's like. Listen, it's like, how do I communicate with nature? How do I talk with nature? How do I feel those feelings between all the sensation of the cells being together, working for that one goal? It's almost like we don't speak the same language, right? And you could say that the language, cliche, really, it's love, right? Of course, we define love completely incorrectly in this world. Love is completely opposite to our nature. If we understand it from a Kabbalistic view, love is 100% opposite. We can't even think of what actually love is. It's so far out of our box. We want to enjoy from love. That's us. That we want to feel good from love, right? We want to use it and then toss it in the trash, right? Everyone's looking to feel love because it makes them feel good, but no one's looking to give love, and that's kind of the problem. Because this giving love is using that force that's what we're lacking. And when we can use it, that's exactly the force that nature operates under. And because we're so disconnected from, we forgot how to speak that language. You don't understand what it actually means to love something, to give something completely of myself. It sounds disgusting. It sounds like I hate it and I never want to hear about it again. But just because you can start feeling how opposite you are from it, already gives you that little edge, that little line that you can grab onto and say, oh, okay, well, I guess if we have no other choice, then we've got to go that way. Then you can start seeing that this is the language that nature speaks, and this is how it operates, and this is how it grows and sustains life and does everything it needs to just from this correct attitude. You just bring a little bit of that into human society, and you'll see how the human society, it connects and grows and breathes from that same force that Mother Nature is giving it. And then you can make your own Avatar movie and not have to worry about plugging your hair into it. You just think good things about other people.
I think we're gonna have to see that there's no other way than from what you said. We basically, yeah, there's just no other.
It sounds so bad, yeah, that you're gonna have to force my hand. But okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We were born with all these natural traits. Didn't have anything to do with that. Our parents raised us, sent us to school. We didn't have anything to do with that. Society fed us songs, movies, culture. We didn't have anything to do with movies. We didn't have anything to do with that. Now, as we started the show, we talked about development had to do with much more physical things, and now it's going more towards the mind and the hearts. Now, what we can do is we can place ourselves. So all of that first development from our genes, from our upbringing, from our school, from our parents, and all of that, let's call that our first nature. Now we have the ability to move into a second nature, to plug ourselves into another society, to find a group of people who are constantly focused on loving others. We'll talk about perception of reality soon and why we feel like we're in a physical world, and how we can start to feel like we're in some other reality that's whole and filled, but by putting ourselves in the same way that the culture that we grew up in is led to the world that we see now.
Yeah.
We need to plant ourselves into this other environment and develop a second nature, a spiritual nature, by being around people, around books, around music, around culture, that develops this other sense in us. Not a problem. It's a natural process, and that's where we're headed, everybody. We will see you next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Hang on for the ride.
See you next time.
Hang on, everyone.
Next week, everybody.
We settle this heart from the chains of time. Then we soar through oceans in the sky. Oh, through your cold. To be in love with you, touch you with a bird's eye. See, the world is filled with you.
In a field that is blessed, then to come home with you and rest. Just to hunt in a field that is blessed, then to come home with you and rest.
Only love can save us. Viruses, the hatred, unity gon' vaccinate us. True immunity from all the things that separate us. Everything is only for the good, it's all to change us. Yeah, so with tears and we reaping joy. Ego is the evil seeking to destroy. Education covering the hate with love. Revelation blessings raining from above.
Just to hunt in a field that is blessed, and to come home with you and rest. Just to hunt in a field that is blessed, and to come